Good evening, and I will also attempt to make this brief. Basically, I stand on my record. Anybody who has questions about any of the issues, I can probably pull videotape off of the Law Society website of my comments on that issue in convocation. I spoke out about the 13 recommendations when they were passed. I believe I might have been one of the only people who abstained that day for a variety of reasons, primarily that there was no protection in those recommendations for licensees whose firms say, why is our firm not higher on the inclusion list that the Law Society is proposing to put out? Why are we lower than that other firm? It must be because one of our staff people said, I don't feel included. Who's not making partner, who's not getting their contract renewed, the person that we can point at and say, that's probably the troublemaker. No protections in the recommendations for that. And that was a big problem. I think it's going to continue to be a big problem. Licensing, I stood in the committee and argued for the continuation of the LPP. I continued to try to move towards increased use of the LPP, and certainly not abandoning it or not creating too much of a two-tiered entrance process, because I don't think that helps anyone. You can look at our American cousins to the and say the whole thing about if you have more than one tier, one of them is going to be considered substandard, whether or not it actually is. It does not work towards equality in any way. Finances and the time that it takes to get things done in the Law Society, I think actually really comes back to the question of how the Law Society is staffed. And speeding things up requires more staff. More staff requires more money. So when the Law Society is trying to balance those things, I'm not going to say that they get it right. I don't actually think that they get. Okay, this is being recorded.
Yes.
I think they get everything right, obviously. One of the things that I think distinguishes me from some of the other candidates, some of the current ventures for that matter, is that I have very much a part-time practice. I teach as a sort of second piece of that. And my teaching is primarily of paralegals, not lawyers. I do teach law students, but I primarily teach paralegals. And that gives me both the chance to see what paralegals actually can do, and to hear back from my students when they're really proud to have gone to, for instance, small claims court, and to have come out victorious over somebody that was sort of poo-pooing them as being lesser than. And I sort of, open the imaginary bottle of champagne and support my students in that. At the same time, I know that they have limitations, primarily limitations because of the way they're being taught, because of the way that the Law Society regulates paralegal education. The Law Society has zero power to regulate law schools, none, nada. At the same time, they micromanage paralegal education in some ways that are actually detrimental to having a strong and competent paralegal profession. So I try to speak up both for
30 seconds.
Both for the potential competence of paralegals, if properly trained, and also for lawyers and new licensees coming through the onerous prospects of getting a license and the onerous costs of that. Thank you.